Hello, YouTube. This is Jay Coder back with another stream. And today we're going to be going over how to set the background of a device that you have via your own app. So it's basically setting the wallpaper or background on your app. And so I have a starter project that I will start from scratch so that you guys can follow along, and we're gonna code an app that we can select from a list of images that we can set as the background. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and also, yeah, continue to like this video, subscribe, and comment. And without further ado, let's go ahead and go over the tutorial. Alright, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. I created a brand new project here and in Android Studio, and inside the project I added 3 images that we're going to choose from, that we're going to do the code to be able to select one of these to set as the background. And also I wanted to show you guys that it is the beginning of the video, and I'm sorry, not the beginning of the video, but the beginning of the app, which is it's a starter app. So I'm gonna show you guys the emulator that I'm working with right now, and let me switch that view really quick here. So to show you my emulator, and all right, so here is the Android emulator, and it says hello world right now. So that's to show you guys that we're starting from the beginning. And also, once we finish this, I'll go ahead and post the code that we went over as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to switch the view back to our code, our Android Studio window. So our Android Studio window, here it is. And so, all right. And so, what I'm going to need for the start is I created a file, a source file that's called image-screen.kt, and in this image-screen.kt is going to contain all of our code that will be related to displaying our list and setting the wallpaper. We're going to be doing this in Jetpack Compose. So basically, so what I will need is I will need a composable. So so for this composable, I'm going to make this a composable that will display our image list. So the first thing I'm going to put here is composable, and then this composable is going to be the function image list, and then it's going to be, and in this image list is going to take in our context. So we need to pass in our context for the reasons related to setting the wallpaper. So, when we call this, we're going to, of course, pass in our context from our application. So the next thing I'm going to do is a lazy column. And so this lazy column is going to actually have items in it. And the items that this lazy column is going to have is so inside the items, I have to pass in how many items. So the items is going to be the size of our list that we're going to pass in. So you're going to have the list of items. And of course, I have one, two, three images that will be inside our list. I haven't created the list yet, but I will shortly. Actually, I'll go ahead and create that list right now. Gonna actually create it here in this same file. Whereas sometimes, for this example purpose, I'm gonna create it in the same file. Sometimes you might get it from a database or from an API. And, once the application gets more complicated with more data and things like that, you can, of course, add a view model to manage the data. And so, but for this purpose, we're going to go ahead and put the data in the image list right here. So basically, when you want to access a image, you do the r.drawable.image. So for instance, I have the image one. It's gonna be related to the what I named the image. So I named the image one, image two, and image three. So that's the images that are going to be added to the image list. And so when you add that to the image list, it's kind of like referencing the ID of that specific image, so that you can have the ID to reference the image for it to be able to be displayed. So, all right, now within our actual items, and we're gonna do so. This is basically saying for each item, let's do something. So I'm going to have a lambda here. And so this is basically going to say for each item in the list, do, what's down here. And for each item, we're going to make a variable actually called, I'm going to call it the item. And for each of these items, I'm going to set it to the index of the image list. So basically, here's the index, and then um, when we set it equal to the image list, we're going to access it like so. So each item will be accessed like so from the image list. And then what I want to do next is I'm going to make a card. And this is going to be a custom composable that I'm going to make, which will be image card. That's why it's red, since I haven't made it yet. But it's going to include two things. It's going to include the item, uh, um, so that we can reference that image, and also the context, which is going to be necessary later as we set the actual wallpaper. And so, all right, and now since I made the the image card, I'm going to need to create it so that we can know how that will be, so the program can know how it will be. Well, this is going to be a composable, and this is going to be me implementing image card. And with the image card, it's going to have an image variable, and actually I'm going to it's going to be our image integer, which is going to be the kind of like the ID in the image. And then, of course, it's going to, like so, up here, it's going to take in the context. Now, inside this function, we're going to have a composable card that is actually a built-in composable, and inside the card we're going to inside this card we're basically going to set the padding and make it clickable. And so I'm going to give so we're going to actually need to set the modifier to modifier. And then when you set the modifier, it's going to be a dot. And then I'm going to set the padding. And then for this padding, it's going to be 16 dp. And then also, you want to set if it's clickable. And so this is going to have the curly brackets. And then inside clickable, this is going to be where we are going to set the wallpaper. Okay. And then, so we have the card, and we set the modifier. Now, what I'm going to do is display the image. So this is going to be like the composable image. And then the painter is, it has to take in a painter resource. And guess what this painter resource takes in? It takes in our image ID that we passed in. And then it also takes a content description. And so since this is a small app, and we're not really emphasizing the content description in this video, we're going to set that to null since we don't need that. And then now this one is going to also have a modifier. And this is basically just to set the height. So I'm going to go ahead and set the height to 200, which is an arbitrary number, but it can be played around with, and of course you can adjust it to your liking. And so we have we set the image here. Let's see. So yeah, the image, and then now since we have the image being displayed based on the ID passed in, we can go ahead and test this to see if it is displaying the images properly. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our main. And then instead of calling this greeting, which was responsible for showing that hello world earlier, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And so the thing that we're calling is the image list. And so I'm going to go ahead and call image list. And then on this, we need to get the context on. So in order to get the context, in this case, we can simply just say this. So we can simply say this. And then once we simply say that, that's basically getting the contents from our context from our main activity. And so that's what we'll need in order to set the wallpaper. But let's take this time to go ahead and test if this works. So I'm going to go ahead and test the application and run the emulator. Right now the emulator is loading, and I'm going to need to change over the screen so that we can display the proper screen. So let me go ahead and do that. So this is going to be the emulator here. Just give me 1 second to get that up. All right. And so this is what we have here. This is what has came out from our code so far. And we notice the three images. For the three images, I it's local images. I dragged and dropped from my desktop into the drawable folder for the Android Studio, and I named them Image 1, Image 2, and Image 3. And so it is properly displaying the images I have. Now, what we need to add to it is adding the wallpaper. So basically, I can tap on it, but it doesn't do anything. But remember, in the code, I made it clickable. So within it being clickable, we will need to place the set wallpaper code. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and switch back to our code view. Just give me 1 second. So I'm gonna switch back to our code view in Android Studio. And so, like I said, we need to go back over to our image screen, and we gotta implement this part to set the wallpaper. Now, when you set the wallpaper in Android, an app has to ask for permission first in order for it to be able to access the actual operating system to be able to set the wallpaper. So we need to add something to ask the user for permission. So in order to ask the user for permission, we're going to need to go to the Android manifest.xml file. And then I actually already have it here, but this is what you would put inside your Android manifest file. You will not have this by default. So if you want the functionality to set a wallpaper, you will need to add this before the application and kind of after this manifest line here, and then you would go ahead and use the following code. Uses permission, Android name, android.permission.set wallpaper. And then once you do that, you should be able to move forward to set the wallpaper without any errors because the user is for privacy purposes that the user um, will be asked the permission to allow the app to use the wallpaper when they are downloading the application. So, all right. So now let us go forward and implement this method. So, in order to do that, we I'm going to make a new method called set wallpaper, and this method isn't really going to be a composable because we're not really displaying something. This will be pretty much just functionality that will set the wallpaper. So I'm going to say function set wallpaper. And then this is going to also take in our integer and also take in the context, just like uh, we did earlier with the image list. And this time, we are going to make a wallpaper manager. So, like it says, this is going to be our key variable that will manage setting our background in our application. So, the use of this is wallpaper manager equals wallpaper manager, which is a built-in instance that we're going to go ahead and do dot get instance, and then we're going to do pass in. What do we pass in? So this is going to be our context. So we pass in our context right there, and then now we're going to need a bitmap uh, representing our image because that's the format we need when setting the wallpaper. So this was going to be a, a variable with bitmap, and I'm going to. This is going to be a bitmap factory, and then it's going to be dot decode resource, and then our resource is going to be the context dot resources, and then the context resources, we're going to get the ID of the image. So we're going to retrieve the image from the context of resources, and then that's going to set our bitmap. So the bitmap factory returns um, the decoded bitmap and converts that to the bitmap. And then, so in order to set the background, it's going to need to be in a try catch. So we're going to attempt it. And then if it doesn't work, then we're going to have a catch statement to catch. In case it doesn't work, it's going to catch an exception. And basically, it's going to, you know, if it doesn't work, an error happened. If it does work, then great. Then the background is set. So, so in order to iron this out, this catch is gonna catch the exception. This is gonna handle our error, and then in this try, we're going to go ahead and call call our wallpaper manager, and then we're gonna set has a method within called set. Oh, not the capital wallpaper manager, the actual variable name wallpaper manager. This could be named anything, but we're not accessing this. We're actually accessing this. So this is going to be wallpaper manager. And then this wallpaper manager is has a set bitmap method, and then we're going to we're going to set our bitmap to the bitmap that we just created from our image. And so we set that. Now, once we do that, our our image is being set. So to the background. So we're gonna go ahead and display a toast. A toast is a brief pop up that brings up a message that you tell it. So for the toast, we need a context as well, and then basically at this point, if everything is good, then we say wallpaper set successfully, and then to finish that toast, we say toast dot length short. Which are different options you can have in your toast? Then we need to say dot show, or I'm sorry, actually outside this bracket, it'll need to say dot show, and then and then now if the opposite happens and it's not successful, then some kind of error happened. So we're gonna also do show that accordingly. So basically, we're gonna say the same thing inside our catch statement, and if it's inside our catch statement, something went wrong. So we're going to say error setting wallpaper. So basically, an error happened if it's inside this toast and or inside this catch. So, all right, great. Now that we have our set wallpaper method, where do we need to call it? So we have our wallpaper method, so we need to call it inside our clickable card. So inside our clickable card, we're going to just pretty much call set wallpaper. Then it took in our two things, which we can take in from up here, which is going to be our image ID and our context. And then that should fulfill that. And all right, we should be good to go to test out our code. And so we call it, we already have this here, which we just modified our image uh, list to be able to set the wallpaper. Now, let's go ahead and play it. And I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen so that you all can be able to see the emulator. So I am playing the emulator. So let me see. And I need to switch the screen to the emulator. Okay, this is my emulated device. It's emulated, but of course it's gonna work the same way as on a real device. So, all right, now now that we have our list here, what we need to do is we need to click on one of them. So I clicked on this pink one, and now let's see if this works. All right, it says wallpaper set successfully. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and check if that's true. So to check if that's true on your device, you would hit your home button, and boom, it did work. This background is indeed the background that I set for my own application. So let's go ahead and go back to our application, and then let's go ahead and I'm gonna tap the top one. So I went ahead and tapped the top one, and let's see if okay, wallpaper set successfully. And so with my emulator, it's since it's thinking it's going slow, my actual um operating system, well, the emulator is saying is lagging a little bit, but it's still functioning correctly. So when I go ahead and hit the circle, boom, the wallpaper has been set. So the wallpaper has been set, and so yeah. So basically, you can, with different screens, there'll be more apps, and usually when you flip through the different pages, it parallaxes the picture. Like when you have more pages, it'll flip. You can flip more and more through it. But so yeah, this is what was expected. Now let's test the final picture. So I'm gonna go back to the application. Then we're gonna go ahead and click on the final picture, and wallpaper set. All right, and we're gonna go back to the desktop. All right, so perfect. So yeah, that works correctly. And I'm gonna go ahead and post the code for you guys to reference. And all right, that's what I wanted to show you guys today. Please comment, subscribe, and like this video. And as always, I want to tell you guys to stay coding and to stay tuned for more videos.